Technology Committee, I've spoken with Town Manager this week. Mr. Welch, are you prepared to talk about how that's going to move forward?
Well,
if at all.
I wrote myself a note.
Thank you.
Because I'm apt to forget things if I don't. And the suggestion of the board is to wait until Mike returns. I'm hoping he'll be back in on Wednesday from his leave, and request that he draft a workable policy for the board's review, informing an IT committee to work with our in-house IT personnel, department heads and IT personnel, to work with the finance director in this effort. I can tell you that we are, and I know Paul has to take the entire weekend to try to get the new web page up. He's going to have to work the entire weekend to do that. One of the things that we're going to be faced with in this process, and we should think about it at this point, is that to do much more than we're doing now in-house is going to require us to farm this out. We just don't have the personnel to be doing this. We need to hire some company that can do this for us and maintain it on a regular basis on a professional venue. That's my recommendation. We wait till Mike comes back. We form the committee, internal, and we come up with some sort of a policy to bring back to the board for review.
Wonderful.
So we can move forward.
And do you think that committee would be formed before we entertained additional support that you just mentioned?
Oh, yes.
Wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I think that has to come from the committee if that's what we're going to do.
Fine, sir. And one last question, and that committee would also, when we've had other discussions, they would integrate with the State Technology Committee some of the needs that Hampton has for
well,
freeing up data.
The committee for DRED, for IT,
sir,
for development, and so forth, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Did you want to discuss any of the other goals?
I don't, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Pierce.
I just wanted to pick up on what Bill was saying about that. I think it's essential that we form the committee first so we get an outside view, somebody that's not inside the box, and tell us what we're really doing that's really bad or good before we make any decisions. So I think we ought to form the committee.
Which is what
Town Manager said. I'm reiterating that, but he was sort of elaborating that we're going to use our current people to nudge the committee. I think it ought to be the other way around. The committee ought to be the leading force, because they're going to come out with, hopefully, where are we in this century, because we know we're not up to speed on hardly anything in town as far as where internet service and laptops, iPads, whatever you guys want to use here, we're way behind almost everybody else. The school board's looking at iPads and things like that. So I think we'd be doing a disservice by looking in-house because we're thinking inside the box. I think we should be looking outside the box, is what I'm trying to say there. So by forming the committee first, let them sort of see what's going on, then come up with a plan where we should go and so on and so forth. I mean, you come in and we're really full of enthusiasm there, and Bill Lally was full of enthusiasm right before he left. He got me all excited about we had a laptop in, and it would work. It's just whether they wanted to do it or not was the question at the time. So I think what we need to do here is, there's an old person like me who's used to working with the internet the way it's been for the last few years, and PCs the way they've been for the last few years, and servers and stuff like that. Bring in a fresh outside look. That's my suggestion.
Okay. Do you want to discuss any of the other goals?
No, that was the only one I really needed to discuss. Thank you.
And Mr. Moore.
Does Selectman Pierce's comments then go against the policy that Mike Schwartzer might be drafting? I mean, are we changing the directions?
I think the committee ought to be the lead rather than the in-house.
So it does. It does change. We don't want that policy to be written until...
Right. That's my feeling.
Then you need to select the people who are going to be on the committee.
Exactly.
Okay?
I agree with that.
But you may caution. The only thing I can offer is some caution, and that is that when you select these people, they are going to be well-based and well-founded in these disciplines. I understand that.
Hopefully.
You may all of a sudden find yourself with a situation where they don't understand what's going on without our people reporting to that committee and telling them what's happening in-house.
Oh, yeah, they'd have to interface with the town, but
And you may expect to find that you're going to have this humongous price tag attached to it.
true, but I think that it's like any committee that the selectmen pick, they are supposed to come up with the ideas and suggestions they bring back to us, and then they bring back their ideas and suggestions, we can see if it's overwhelming or not.
Okay.
If the wind's blowing against it, it's blowing against it.
Well, we're talking about goals for the year. It sounds like we're going to probably put this on the agenda.
Work it through.
And
Yes.
we'll talk about it in the future.
If I could just offer one thing, Mr. Chairman, my concept of that committee is they would be force multipliers for our current platform, bring that expertise, and it would be revenue neutral. And if anything, would be a force multiplier for gaining more revenue in our relationship with the state, but would not be an added expenditure. That's my concept of that committee.
Mm-hmm. So,
I'm always in favor of watching the money.
okay, well, that's going to be, so you're reaffirming that that's a great goal for
I think it's a great goal, absolutely. I just wanted to change the concept just a tad, that the committee ought to be the lead rather than the after the fact.
Well, we will discuss that as time goes on.
Can I make a couple of comments on that? One is, I think that Paul Paquette should probably be part of that committee. Just to comment, there was some discussion to go in a different
I
direction
agree.
and some of Fred's concerns. I think that Paul should be an active member of that committee. It would be, to me, a big mistake for him not to, because he's the one more than anybody that knows what's going on today.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, I think that that's a complicated enough subject that, just like we talked about having a discussion at next meeting on changes to the purchasing policy, I think that ought to have at some
I
point on
agree.
an
We're
agenda.
going to put it on the agenda at
Yeah.
a time in the future, but that's a good goal. Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir. Thank you. we have 6 from April the 16th, 4 of which now we're working to a pretty clear on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of us are going to argue, although I'm not sure if I would have accepted it as a goal if I was going to be compensated because of it, improving the relationship between town and state. But I know that we have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, whether we're going to be successful in that endeavor remains to be seen. So it's going to stay on the goal list.